You're listening to the Fezcast, produced on behalf of the Saracen Supporters Association and featuring the independent thoughts, rants and rambles of Saracens fans and special guests. If you'd like your opinion to be heard on the show, you can find the Fezcast on Facebook or Fezcast_SSA on Instagram and whatever Twitter is known as these days. But for now, enjoy this week's show.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Welcome to the Leavers special of the Fezcast, and very conveniently Jez has left us just for this week anyway, so it doesn't matter. I've got Duncan and Barry with me as well, after what was a bit of a roller coaster weekend actually, but we're gonna take it from the start and talk about the players leaving first. But actually, first up, Duncan, how are you, mate? You okay?
I'm very good. Why'd you ask?
Oh, I haven't seen you for a little while, and Barry.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I can't actually.
Well, I bumped into you before the game on Saturday, didn't I? In the sunshine. We should have started the rumour, by the way, that Jez has left. It would have given him some consternation, wouldn't it?
It would. And yeah, I can't see Barry. He's just a name on a screen, but I'm sure he's all right. Are you there, mate? You good? Oh, maybe he's not. Barry.
He's gone as well.
Oh, sorry. I've got a habit of muting myself because I'm doing things, and I sometimes I forget to turn it off. Yeah, all good this end. We
are professional as ever. Right, on to the probably the main topic of the week, really, even bigger than the match in a way. 25 players in total are leaving Saracens at the end of the season, ranging from the club captain to players in their first year of the academy. But yeah, it's quite a number of people. I mean, we can talk about a few individuals, but just first, Duncan, was it a bit of a shock to you to see so many names leaving, or was it kind of expected given some of the conversations we've had this season about needing a new era, new chapter of Saracens?
I think the total numbers were a shock, wasn't it? I think it was a shock to everybody because it started with the expected. Was it Billy who sort of kicked it off? And then Mako came, and then more came, and then it just kept on going. And there were comments on Twitter from people saying, "Can you stop now? Can you just stop? That's enough." But you're the man who's the real expert on this stuff because you put the squad list together. I don't think we've had a year like this, have we?
I don't think we have. No, I think some of the difficulty comes. I mean, the club didn't used to be particularly good at announcing the younger players or some of the players in the back end of the squad leaving. Sometimes they did just leave a little quietly and unnoticed. I think it's quite nice that they've given 9 academy players just as much of a send-off as some of the other players. But yeah, it's certainly unprecedented in a way. But yeah, shocking for you as well, Barry, or looking at some of the names, were you kind of expecting a bit?
Yeah, so some of the names we would have expected. A couple due to injury, obviously with Tom Wollstonecroft and Ralph Adams-Hale, which we would have expected, but one or two, maybe not surprises, but maybe just a little bit disappointed to see a few go, particularly the younger players. I mean, Ben Harris we've mentioned before a couple of times, and probably Alex Lewington as well. A bit surprised to see him go at this stage.
Yeah. I mean, Alex Lewington is sort of part of what I was going to talk about, really. I mean, there's 16 senior players that are going. 3 of them have had to retire because of various medical advice. So you've got Ralph Adams-Hale, Tom Wollstonecroft we already knew, and Cam Boone as well, which is a shame for all 3 of them because they've been good servants to the club. So that, but that is 3 players. If we do lose a player or 2 here and there because of medical reasons a bit early. You've got 2 other retirements in Alex Lewington and Sean Maitland, where Maitland we probably expected, Lewington maybe less so. But yeah, I mean, that brings your 16 down to 11 that the club have sort of had some kind of say in. And then you get into your likes of Tim Sweal and Don Morris, who hasn't played very much at all lately, and Lagovi Mulipola, who came in on a temporary deal in a way. So you're still kind of in single figures of players that maybe we're a bit surprised the club has let go. But then you have got various Vunipolas, Owen Farrell, who maybe wanted to go as well. But yeah, I'd like to say a couple of shocks there. Let's pick up on Ben Harris, actually, because he's someone that we've discussed a little bit on the show and couldn't really make out whether he was the next cab off the rank a little bit or not. But yeah, Duncan, for you, Ben Harris, would he have been a good addition for next season, do you think? Or he may be right to let him go?
I can understand why he's going. It's interesting to compare him to Roti, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they sort of came through at the same time and they're both super quick. And obviously, you know, in injuries aside, there's a lot of faith in Roti, whereas clearly hasn't been with Ben Harris. He's never, over the past year, he hasn't really been picked outside the Prem Cup and given those chances to come off the bench. And while and perhaps the reason for that is while he's rapid as hell, he really is, and he's a big, tough fella. I think he has struggled to get in the game when he plays. It is a challenge for wingers, isn't it, to get into the game? I don't know whether that's the reason, but quite clearly there's been something.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think sometimes his positioning might be a little bit off occasionally. But yeah, Barry, I know he's someone that you sort of had a fair bit to say about, especially with his pace. Are you a bit disappointed in that one, or?
Yeah, I always felt there was a player in there somewhere, and I mean, just the physical size of the man, he is huge. He's built more like a centre than a winger, to be quite honest with you. And you know, as Duncan says, he is exceptionally rapid, and you kind of thought there's a player in there somewhere. I remember when he sort of first joined us, and he scored I think he scored a hat trick in about 10 minutes away to Ulster in a pre-season game, and you thought, crikey, we've really got a player on our hands here. But as we said, he's not, for whatever reason, he's not had the chances, and he's not had that opportunity to impress the coaches.
I think he and are the only Amptill regulars who aren't being hung on to, aren't they? The rest, I believe, it looks like, you know, there's faith in those, and we'll see, especially the likes of Brandon Jackson and Toby Knight. We'll see coming off the bench quite a bit next season, and there are others there as well.
You'd probably expect that. I mean, obviously, what we don't know at this point is if there are any more signings coming in. There's a couple of rumours out there, and there are rumours for the wing, which is a bit of a bare cupboard, really, if you look at the current squad. But yeah, like you say, the likes of Brandon Jackson probably stepping up, maybe one more signing on the wing potentially. But yeah, who knows, really? I've got an ice cream van going past the window. That's very distracting.
I was about to put my order in. I'll have a 99.
Go and ask him how much his £1 cones are.
Yeah. Speaking of unwanted calories, we do need to talk about the Vunipolas disappearing. That's we kind of expected it. There'd been plenty of word out there, in fact, from Billy himself once everything came out about all the goings on in Spain. But for Mako and Manu to go as well, it really is the end of a big era at Saracens. There's been a Vunipola in the squad for 13 years, I think. So starting with Billy plenty, but starting with Mako, maybe it was his time, do you think?
Yeah, he's struggled a bit this season, hasn't he, really? I mean, our entire front row and really the scrum has, and you can see it's just started. I think it's just an age thing, and it's just starting to catch up with him a little bit. He has come out and said that he wants to play on, so I hope he gets a contract somewhere. It doesn't seem that any of them have already signed for anyone, so perhaps you could put that in the slightly surprising category that they're not staying. But yeah, you know, I think it's just a question of time with Mako. You know, time waits for no man.
It'll be, I mean, if they're both going to Montpellier, it's an interesting move because they are going to a much harder league with much bigger scrums who play a lot more games than we do. And at that point in their career, I can understand they'll be going for the money and good on them. But they're not going to have an easy time.
No, at all. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what what happened.
And Montpellier are not a good team at the moment. They, if it wasn't for Oyonnax, they'd be in real relegation trouble. So it's not going to be easy.
No, not at all, not at all. And with Manu as well, obviously another player that we've had plenty to say about on the show, whether he is the future fly half at Saracens or not. I think we can't have split opinion among us really, but yeah, turns out he's not the future fly half at Saracens. And again, as yet we don't really know where he's going. There's been rumours of Japan, there's been rumours all over the place really, but he is someone that deserves a shot at a decent club, isn't he, Duncan?
No, he is. I wonder whether he'll turn up at Newcastle, because we've taken one of theirs, and Elliot Obitiwambi has had a good time. Well, good time, and they've had a terrible season, but he's held down a regular place and put in decent performances. The parallels with Ben Harris, aren't they? At times you would have thought Manu would be given the job, and then Alex Good was given it instead, who has put in some really good performances, and other times has looked a bit lost. So it's clearly a lack of confidence again there.
No, I think you're probably right. And one more person that I do want to pick up on, actually, that was actually, in a way, to me, it started off as the most surprising, and then I understood it, was Ollie Stoneham. Leaving from, a player that can play lock, can play back row, and always looked good when he played. But for him, I just think he was potentially almost a victim of the fact that we were able to sign some players from clubs that we weren't expecting. With the demise of Wasps and London Irish and Worcester, it has affected the squad, which is possibly why we've let more players go this time than we haven't. But we signed Juan Martin Gonzalez as a complete bonus, and we've retained him long term. And for Ollie as well, you've also got Toby Knight coming in. You've got Nathan Mikolo in the academy, and there are other players in the back row as well that are potentially playing as well as him at this point and having 3 or 4 years on him, which is a massive shame. But I always liked him when he played, and we didn't see a lot of him. But what did you think, Barry?
Yeah, when he was called upon and given a chance in the Prem Cup games, he looked like someone who was going to have a good future. And as you say, he's probably just a case of him being crowded out by the numbers. The squad size limit, I don't think comes in for next season, but it does for the following season. So knowing Saracens, we'll already be thinking about that and trying to get the squad down to a slightly smaller level. I mean, poor old Bath, their squad has its own postcode. I think there's so many of them.
There's been a lot of conjecture about that, hasn't there? Whether it's a transition through to that 35 plus academy size squad and getting used to it. A lot of people have been floating that idea.
I think, to be honest, there's probably a lot of merit in that. I mean, we don't really know the full ins and outs of it, and whether it's the RFU or PRL, something random will happen very quickly that we don't know about. But yeah, it does look, 16 senior players out and 5 in at the moment, potentially 6 or 7. But yeah, there is a drop in size of what is already a small squad for us. So maybe we are looking to have a bit of a transition season next year, and maybe actually be a little bit ahead of some clubs if that does come in, because like you mentioned Bath, there will be some teams that have to do some serious chopping out of their squad, and maybe us bringing in a few of those younger players a little bit earlier next season might actually help. But on to the big one, and we have discussed him far too much this season, but it is the last time we've seen Owen Farrell at the StoneX, probably, maybe in a different capacity. And it was nice to see at least one player be given a microphone to have a chat to the fans after the game. Unfortunately, I couldn't stay for the whole thing, but were you both there for Owen's farewell?
Yeah, and that bit of it was very good. I did have some sympathy with the club and the players. I understand that there were a lot of the players who didn't want a big public fuss made about their leaving. They were very much against it, and it wasn't the best organised ceremony that I've ever seen. But as I say, there was a lot of players who apparently didn't want it. Plus, it was a bit after the Lord's Mayor's show, wasn't it? When everybody was feeling a bit down with both the performance and the result. So, no, it wasn't the best. But and actually, Owen himself during it, the presenter, who was doing a pretty decent job in difficult circumstances, was talking about it as if it was Owen's last game. And Owen actually said, well, I hope there's going to be a few of you there in 2 weeks' time to come and help us in Northampton. So it was overall quite strange.
Yeah, I must admit I didn't have the heart to hang around after the game. I was I was already halfway through a pint by the time they all came back on for their little farewells. But no doubt someone's videoed it, and bits and pieces of it will be appearing on the club's media sites over the next few days. I've no doubt.
Absolutely. Well, look, there's not a lot we can say at this point. I think we'll probably do more of it at the end of the season, because I think how we feel about it all probably depends on whether we've done anything in the semi-final and a final or not. And unfortunately, I won't be here to talk about that. But we'll come back in a second and we'll discuss actually what happened on the pitch.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
You are listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracen Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the StoneX.
This is the Fezcast.
We are on to the match itself, which I don't really know where to start, to be honest. But I'll tell you what I'll start with. I will start with the fact that we've just talked about 25 players leaving. The fact that it was a big occasion for that probably was affecting the atmosphere at the game a little bit. But how much, Duncan, do you think that got into players' heads for the game?
I think with the big leavers, they've known more than we've been told for a long time, haven't they? I mean, they've been dropping hints about Billy and Mako leaving for quite a few weeks now, if not months. And I wonder whether all of those announcements were rushed out in the same week as opposed to being later, because they knew that there had to be this award, this ceremony at the end, and this goodbye bit. The interview with Mark McCall was quite daunting for me, because afterwards they said, well, why did you play like that? And he basically said, I don't know. I haven't got a clue. The whole performance was, I think his word was unenthused or something. And he said, and I don't know why it happened. So I was thinking, well, if you don't know why it happens, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, because I know a lot less than you do. But yeah, it was... I mean, the atmosphere at least to start with, until it naturally went quiet sort of towards the middle of the second half, started off great. You know, a really good atmosphere at the StoneX and a loud crowd. Alex Sanderson is a brilliant coach. And I think he'd seen a couple of performances that had happened, you know, against us, including Northampton and Bordeaux, where good defences get right up in our face, right on us, and then we start making mistakes. And they'd quite clearly studied that, and in that respect, played brilliantly. And I think you have to give credit to Sale for the way they played, because they really executed their game plan brilliantly, and it seemed they were way more up for it than we were. At the same time, the problem that we've got, and I still live in hope, is that we go to Northampton, who have the same defence. They've already done it to us a couple of times this season, been right in our face, forced us into mistakes. And at the same time, they've got a lot better backs than Sale have, who are capable of tearing you apart like Bordeaux can. So, but having said that, I live in hope, and I'll be there.
Covered just about everything. Barry, what do you reckon?
Well, I thought the opening of the game on Saturday was quite interesting, because if you remember, George Ford kicked it out on the full from the kickoff, so we went back for a scrum, which promptly collapsed, and Luke Pearce said, "I don't know what happened, so we'll reset." He then free kicked Sale for early shove, We went for the scrum again. He penalised Sale for the early shovel through the mark before he called for it. We then took the long range penalty, which we missed, resulting in a 22 dropout, which they put out of play. By the time the line out came in, the clock was on 4 minutes, and we hadn't actually seen any play yet.
Yeah.
And that kind of set the tone for the rest of the game. I mean, Sale did execute their game plan very well, but you wouldn't really fancy watching it every week, let's be honest with you. I mean, if they'd had a GPS tracker on their physio, he must have done some miles.
It did, yeah. It was a very, very disjointed game, wasn't it? But at the end of the day, it's up to your opposition to counter it. I'm not going to sit and spit feathers about how they managed the game and use some of the darker arts and a bit of skullduggery to do things. Because at the end of the day, they were still the better team. We didn't fire a shot particularly, and they capitalised on a couple of errors from us and also made the best of their territory, which is fair enough. But yeah, I totally agree with what Duncan said there, and Barry, what you've alluded to as well. It's just nobody seemed like they wanted to be playing that match, which was very bizarre. And I can understand Mark McCall turning around saying, "Yeah, I've got no idea," because that was just very unlike anything that's happened in the last few weeks. I mean, even the Bordeaux game, you could see people trying. We were just beaten by a better team on the day. But yeah, this weekend, I really don't know. It looked like Saracens' performances of early in the season, and I've got to be honest. Personally, think a lot of that came from our scrum half and fly half having their worst games of the season. Because I think once that's happened, you can't do a lot from there. I think Owen was not very good on his final appearance at the StoneX, which is a bit of a worry. But yeah, I don't really know. But I personally don't think that the club making all the announcements that they did this week will have had any effect on the players doing that, because like you say, they'll have known about all of this for weeks. Whether the fact that they knew this amount of players were leaving and that was the last home game for them, whether that did have an effect, who knows? It's possible, isn't it?
Is it possible that because Sale haven't won at StoneX for like 20 years or something, there was overconfidence? I think throughout this whole season, we've seen how important the mental side of it has been to performances. After thrashing us, perhaps Bordeaux thought they were going to steamroll the Harlequins. And so we've done them a favour. We've seen it so many times, haven't we? And we've seen us in particular give us an open team like Bristol or Quins, and we'll thrash them. But we got to work out this element of some teams having worked us out and work out how we're going to deal with that real rush, good defence. And we need to work that out and the mental side for Northampton. And I think we will.
Yeah, I mean, as Jez has said before on here, we do need a plan B, and plan B can't just be do plan A better. But it seems like there was no one out there willing to sort of try and change the way we were playing on Saturday, even when it was clearly going away from us. I mean, the only time we actually looked energised and enthused for the game was probably when Theodan came on. And he gives us a big rush of energy, and he's such a good player that I can see him as a future captain going forward. But that's in one for the future, I guess. Yeah.
To be fair, I think someone that we've said a few times, maybe it is time for him to move on. Billy Vunipola actually brought quite a bit of energy to the game.
He did.
He had a good spell in the second half. Was when we did look briefly like doing one of our classic Saracens comebacks and take victory from somewhere we don't really have any right to do so. He was fairly at the centre of that. But yeah, it was a bad day. We can't really get around that. But like you say, we've still got a semi-final to play against Northampton. We have gone to Franklin's Gardens and won before. They are playing really well. It is on a Friday night. There's quite a lot going against us, but we can give it a go, can't we?
We can give it a go. And go up there and just hope they don't get loads of cause to sing that bloody song that they sing endlessly. It would be a real help going to Northampton if they'd learn another song, but there you go. It could happen. It could happen. I think we're underdogs Northampton are the best team in the league this season. And since they got a rugby league defence coach in, they've added defence to their great attack, and they are the full package, as we saw in the Champions Cup, when they can give Leinster a game at home. We are underdogs, but we could do it.
Probably got the right league as well. If you look at the positions, Bath and Northampton have been the best two sides in the league this season, and they finished 1 and 2, and you could almost perm anyone from the next 6 to make up the final 2, and it just happens to be us and Sale. But look, the pressure's off us. We can go to Northampton and we can give it a go, and I'm sure we will. And if we come away defeated, no one will be that surprised, and we might just pull off a shock. You never know.
It's an interesting point you make, Matt, about Owen Farrell, because we've been so dependent on him, haven't we, this season? Which, big question mark for next season. When he's been on song, like kicking a 22-22 against Bristol and stuff like that, we fly, don't we? And when he's either not there or having a bad game, we do struggle.
Yeah. I mean, we're at the start of the season. It is the Fezcast season of Owen Farrell, really, isn't it? At the start of the season, we're talking about we had some losses before he came back. Then when he came back, we started winning games, but we were also conceding 2 tries because he's chucked a wayward pass or been charged down with a kick and got away with it. And then we just started to lose games when he wasn't playing particularly well as well. And yeah, I mean, your fly half is your key to the team. If your 10 isn't playing well, it's very, very difficult to win a rugby match. It's fairly simple.
Did anybody see Fergus Burke on his comeback game on Saturday? I didn't get to watch it.
That is a good point, actually. He's it was his comeback game, and the Crusaders are probably having more of a crisis than we are in terms of being a big club doing well and not playing particularly well this season. But he looked fairly normal in a team that's finding ridiculous ways to lose. He did kick 100% off the tee, but I didn't actually see where those kicks were from. They could have been 4 kicks dead ahead of the post, so not really sure. But he is a talent, and the Crusaders were looking at him as the next cab off the rank after Richie Mo'unga, and it turns out that's not the case now. But yeah, it'll certainly be a different Saracens next season, won't it? When we get him finally, if he's staying in New Zealand for the domestic competition there. But yeah, something to look forward to anyway. You looking forward to that, Barry?
Yeah, I am. I mean, he's obviously got massive boots to fill with Owen, not just as a 10, but as a leader on the pitch and a leader of the group, and someone that brings other people up to his level. I mean, we've discussed this ad infinitum on here, but there's a lot of things that he adds to our game, and you're right. If he's on song, we're on song, and when he's struggling a little bit, I think other elements of his game maybe go as well, but perhaps there's not quite the leadership there as well when he's struggling himself a bit form. And of course, he's still playing with an injury. I mean, it's fairly obvious that he's not moving comfortably, and you can see that. And very, very early on, one of the Sale back rows hit him very, very, very hard, and you almost heard him wince as he went down, and you just wonder if that played a little part in it as well. But yeah, huge shoes to fill. Let's hope Fergus gets over here for the pre-season and gets a good go at it.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And I suppose we should probably look at it. When Brad Barrett hung up his boots, we were talking about what we do with the squad, and I think Jez and I came to the conclusion that you don't replace Brad Barrett, you just have to play in a different way, and I think it's going to be exactly the same with Owen Farrell. No one's going to replace Owen Farrell. We've just got to look at how the squad develops in a different way without him, and yeah, we'll see how it goes next season. Hopefully it's generally quite exciting, really. Anyway, when we get back, we will talk about something good that happened this weekend.
Hi, this is Petrus Duplessis, and you are listening to the Fezcast.
This is the Fezcast.
So welcome back to the final little part of the Fezcast, and we thought we'd best end with something positive, which is why we've done it in this order. Saracens women headed down to Sandy Park to face Exeter, never won there. and did so in style, scoring 57 points, almost unanswered. So a pretty good showing. I was watching it and thoroughly enjoying it, as were you, Duncan. I know that. What did you make of that Saracens performance, Duncan? Because we were missing some players as well, weren't we?
Yeah. Well, I said on the WhatsApp that given the opposition, I think that's the best women's performance I've ever seen. I was at the Sale game the week before as well, and they were really good there. But Sale are the bottom team. And to be honest with you, Sale put up a better performance than Exeter did, or we made Exeter just look really second best. And we've talked before about, the wide range of class in the women's game. Well, Exeter are one of the top teams, and we battered them in style with some outrageous skill.
Yeah.
That was great. It was fantastic to watch.
It was. It probably is worth saying that with the makeup of Exeter's squad, they were missing more players than we were to the Pacific Championship. Lots of Americans and Canadians, so maybe their squad was a little bit gutted than ours, but still, they're still a good unit, and they've played without those players before. So it was a bit of a surprise to see that result, wasn't it, Barry?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you said that, or Duncan said that Exeter didn't play particularly well. They probably found it hard when we were. I mean, at one point we were scoring a point a minute, weren't we? And when you get that kind of start, it's very difficult to dig yourself out of that hole. And that would have hurt them. A little bit of revenge maybe for the men getting such a pasting down there on the first game of the season.
Yeah, what's the aggregate score after all of that? I think Exeter are still slightly ahead, aren't they?
I think they probably are, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there was a couple of performances there that definitely need picking up on, and we'll go with the obvious one because she got player of the match, was Sarah McKenna, who is probably in her later years of her rugby career and is doing a lot of coaching on the side. But when she's played this season, that experience has really showed, and it certainly did. This weekend, it was. Don't like to compare too much between the men's and women's teams because it's an entirely different game. But I saw a lot of Alex Good in Sarah McKenna's performance. Is that fair, Duncan?
Yeah, I mean, less jinking, but just as good. A bit of that knife through butter quality that Alex has at his best. There was a few of them, weren't they? Just finding gaps and running through. Great breaks.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that strikes me with Zoe Harrison back is for the women's game, just how much better she is at kicking than almost anybody else. She gets so much more length, and the accuracy of her kicking is almost Owen Farrell-like, on a day. And that's a brilliant weapon to have, especially in the women's game.
It is, yeah. I mean, something that we've talked about a few times is that, that is the area of the game that perhaps certainly in 3 or 4 years ago was the bit that was lagging behind slightly, and it was Zoe Harrison and Zoe Harrison only that you would expect to actually kick the ball during a game. And that has thankfully expanded out with other players within teams and also other teams as well. But everything on show really at the weekend, and Signe Gregson as well, scoring another couple of tries. She really is on fire this season, isn't she, Barry?
Yeah, absolutely. She's looking pretty unstoppable, really, and let's hope it continues all the way through to the playoffs.
Indeed.
The other thing I really like, I see 2 games in a row, is when Amelia comes on at number 12. I mean, she's played a lot at fly half, but the combination of her and Zoe Harrison, she's a really good centre.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, there's a couple of games to go. We still need some points to be sure of a home semi-final, but almost there, on to Gloucester Hartpury at the weekend. But we are out of time. We're probably going to get cut off completely. So we're going to do a rushed finish. Barry, Duncan, thank you very much. I'm going on holiday. See you all soon. End of the show.
Ta-da.
This is the Fezcast.